You're at 109 right now.
But you don't hear me though.
Microphone check. Microphone check. For starters, let's begin with Allah's School of Mecca. There's a video released within the last 4 hours, 4 or 5 hours, from Allah's School of Mecca. And the video features a young woman who goes by the name of Awich, A-W-I-C-H, Awich. All right, Allah's School of Mecca featuring Awich. I watched that video and I heard some really powerful statements, some very powerful comments about knowledge of self, about getting to know oneself, and it's important. It resonated with me deeply, and it's a powerful video to watch. Beautiful video to watch. With regard to one thing that was stated at the end of the video, it says, do not get caught up in the reflection. Do not get caught up in the reflection, okay? And these videos that are made, these are only reflections. You know, the culture and the reality lies within the human being, the person, man and woman, okay? So the videos are only an introduction, are only a window into the soul, the reality of what is what we are all experiencing as human beings. This is this thing called life. But this is only a reflection, these videos. So you got to do your homework. You got to go deeper than just watch these videos. You've got to see the people, meet the people, shake hands, listen, you know, spend time, you know, eat with the people to get the real experience. Okay? So I wanted to give a shout out to Allah's School of Mecca, home of the nation of gods and earths. All right. That's first. So I guess I want to say thank you for that video, and thank you to Awich, the Earth, for sharing a reflection. You know, sharing herself so that the world can see a reflection of her. Right. Okay. Next, I saw a video by urban legend Will Evans. He's a local Angelino, all right, like myself. There's an airplane flying by right now. Urban legend Will Evans had his live stream going on. I don't know if it's still going on at this moment, but I caught a few glimpses of it. I listened, I watched it. I can appreciate his video because it's timely. He didn't waste any time. He put the video up, and it's a live live stream. So he's interacting with the people, you know, and the content, the topic, is the reason why I'm making this video here, which I'll get to in a second. But shout out, peace and blessings to urban legend Will Evans. Good content, brother. Excellent content. Next, shout out to the company man, Justin Hunt, who's been keeping it 100, you know, throughout his career in hip hop. And I watched his video. Within minutes ago, I watched his video, and his voice and his, you know, articulation and eloquence is needed, is necessary. You know, the way that he puts it is, you know, is important. He's a journalist, you know, hip hop journalist, and we need a brother like that. All right. So peace and blessings to Justin Hunt, the company man. Finally, the reason why I'm making this video is because of the topic at hand. None other than Blacc Sam, Nipsey's brother, was interviewed by none other than Big Boy. All right. And Blacc Sam, for starters, hasn't done an interview about the topic of his brother's passing, his brother's assassination, his murder. And it's been 5 years now. So this was an event. Blacc Sam sat down. Black, that's a big airplane right there. It's a cargo plane going by. Blacc Sam hadn't sat down to talk about his brother's murder in 5 years. And his input, his insight, his perspective has been greatly, desired by, in my case, I'm a member of the public, so by the public. What does Blacc Sam think? What's on his mind? What can we learn from listening to him, and so forth and so on. The reason why I'm making this video is to highlight a few of the details that I learned during that interview. So this is iSee109, and the story of 10-9 is about God. It's about how one man finds God, and those numbers represent God. 1, 0, and 9, add them together, you get 10. You get 1 and 0, add that together, you get 1. The number 1 represents God. All right? So I found God that way by looking at those numbers. Also, because those numbers resonated with me, whenever I saw those numbers, I was always curious about how come those numbers called my attention. So I saw 1, 0, and 9, and I thought about my birthday, October 9th, the day I was born. And when I searched for the meaning as to why I kept seeing those numbers, it was only until I went to the nation of gods and earths, to the 5 percenters, to learn their supreme mathematics, that I found that 1 means knowledge, 0 means knowledge plus cipher, and 9 means born. And I needed that interpretation in order to wade through the water of this of the abyss. I needed some understanding. And so when I saw that 109 mentions that the nation of gods and earths mentioned born in the, I want to call it, in the qualitative description of these numbers, then it resonated with me deeply, and I said I can rock with that, because 9 means born, and 9 is part of my number, and I keep seeing 109. Okay, I can rock with that. But one of the tenets of the philosophy, the ideology of the 5% nation, the nation of gods and earths, is that the black man is God. And so this is a statement. This is a profound statement that needs to be understood, that needs to be dissected, that needs to be, deeply embraced. The black man is God. Because here's the thing. The book I wrote, the story that I'm telling, my channel, iSee109, is about finding God. It's about knowledge of self, or gaining knowledge of self. And it's also about finding God in others, seeing God in others. So in one aspect, it was me learning that I am a God, small g, but then it's also me seeing God in others. All right. Now here's the thing. Let's go back to the company man, Justin Hunt. Within the first minutes of his discussion about Blacc Sam's interview with Big Boy, he mentions that Nipsey had Jesus energy. And I was like, yeah. And Justin mentions that he was inspired by Nipsey because he covered Nipsey as a journalist, when Nipsey was alive many years. But this wasn't a one-off idea. This wasn't a comment that Justin said and he was just, he said it and then that was it. No, he doubled down or he tripled down on it. Okay, because he also said he called into the room, so to speak, brothers Glasses Malone and Daylight. Man. So Glasses Malone in his interview talked about need. It's Inglewood for you. Someone's popping fireworks. Thank you. So Glasses Malone in his interview talked about how Nipsey carried himself with Jesus energy. Black Jesus. Daylight said the same thing. All right. I've seen the video of Glasses Malone. I've seen that video, so I've heard Glasses Malone mention it. I've listened to Daylight. I can't specifically, pinpoint when Daylight, talked about Nipsey's Jesus, energy, but I'm sure I can find it. But Glasses Malone, I remember. I remember that interview. Anywho, these brothers saw it. These brothers recognized. They recognized God in Nipsey when they saw it. When they saw how he moved, they saw it. Okay? And they were closer to him than I ever was. But my story is, I was halfway around the globe, on the other side of the planet, when some mysterious things happened. For starters, I had always had those call to attention moments when I saw 10 and 9, and it resonated with me purely because it was an illusion. I saw it as an allusion to my birthday. But when I saw 109 on the day that we lost Nipsey, in a highly mysterious way, because there were only 2 cars on the road, and one of those cars had 109 on the license plate. And I noticed that car, not because I was looking for 109, but because that car cut me off. It was actually a truck. That truck cut me off. So it demanded my attention in that moment. It was the same day that we lost Nipsey. Within an hour of me waking up to the news of Nipsey's murder, I had to get dressed and and drive myself to work. I was driving to work when that truck cut me off. Now I was in the desert, halfway around the globe. And there were only 2 cars on the road because this was the desert. Not many cars were on the road, and that truck's license plate had 109 on it. What are the odds? What are the odds that that truck would have those numbers on the license plate? It's just like, it's a miracle. But that's just to give you some idea, a scenario, just to give you some idea what I was experiencing on the day that we lost Nipsey. But here's something that resonated with me really deeply when I listened to Blacc Sam's interview. Blacc Sam said that on the day that we lost Nipsey, for starters, he said that he had worked. He had worked a long shift, at one of his stores, one of his shops. And he had to rest in between shifts before just heading back out to work. The man works hard. So his plan was to go to his grandmother's home, sleep, rest up, and then get up and hit another shift. That's what Blacc Sam said that his plan was. And so, as he described this, he said that he was at his grandmother's home sleeping, and the one detail that really captured my mind and my attention and really, resonate with me was the fact that Blacc Sam said that he was sleeping on the floor at his grandmother's home. So I heard that and I thought to myself, I'm trying to rationalize. So I'm like, couldn't you have slept on the couch? Doesn't she have maybe a 2-bedroom home? Isn't there a room that you could have slept on the bed? Like, you slept on the floor, my dude? My G? You slept on the floor, God? That's how the New Yorkers, the 5%ers, the nation of gods and earths refer to each other. God, you did that? You did that, God? But let me tell you why that resonated with me so deeply. Basically, when the events of March 31st transpired and when we lost Nipsey, exactly as Blacc Sam said, that he was sleeping on the floor, which I thought was an incredible detail. But there I was, halfway around the globe, on the other side of the planet. And guess where I was sleeping? I was sleeping on the floor. Now, I was sleeping on the floor because, not because I didn't have a bed, not because, whatever. I had a bed. I had a bed. I slept in that bed for, over a month. Maybe 2 months. About a month. I think it was 2 months. It was 2 months that I slept in that bed. But on that particular night, I decided that the bed wasn't as comfortable as the floor. So I had a small mat, and I laid the mat on the floor, directly on the floor, and I slept on top of that mat. I mean, the floor would have been hard otherwise, but I needed that mat to cushion me. But I was not sleeping on the bed. I was sleeping on the floor. And that was something that I really thought of, and that really resonated with me, because I never would have thought, Blacc Sam would be sleeping on the floor at that point in his career, at that point in his, at that point in his career, and also at his grandmother's home. But that's a key detail to connect, me to them. Because I was halfway around the globe, on the other side of the planet. And what was I doing? I was sleeping on the floor. Wow. What a detail to connect, And then the other thing is that, I saw it as learning about Nipsey's, murder, and learning that he was laying on the ground after being shot. Over the time that he laid on the ground, I felt, or I knew, that although I was halfway around the globe on the other side of the planet and I was asleep, slowly Nipsey was losing his life. But he was on the ground here in Los Angeles. So that was another detail that just stuck with me, like, oh my gosh. We were removed from each other's experience by thousands of miles, 8,000 miles. And yet, there was a connection between, what we were doing in that particular moment. Think about that. And then, very briefly, there's another detail that resonated with me. During that time, during the month of March, I was nursing my foot. I had a fungus on my foot. I had my foot had sores on it, and I was slowly recuperating, healing from this. And I went to the hospital, and they gave me some burn cream and iodine to clean my foot. And so when I put the iodine on my foot, I didn't want it to rub off to spill on the floor and to, mess up the floors in the home where I lived. And I also put burn cream on my foot as instructed by the doctor. And so all of that I was doing to take care of the foot of my wound, it forced me to wear a sock on my right foot. And so I wore a sock on my right foot to prevent any of these chemicals from spilling on the floor and just messing up the floor and, and my home. Do you know I walked around with one sock on my right foot? On my right foot. And when I learned of the events in Los Angeles and when I saw the video of Nipsey after he had been shot and after they were carrying him out on a gurney, do you know I noticed something that struck me as quite odd? Nipsey had one sock on his left foot. And I was like, wait a minute. He has one sock on. I'm already thinking like, why does he only have one sock on? And that's because the firemen removed one of his socks. For some reason, they removed his shoe, removed his sock. I don't know. Anywho, I was all the way around the globe, halfway around the globe on the other side of the planet with one sock on my right foot. I'm watching the news reports about Nipsey's murder, but this was not on the same day. This was not the same day of Nipsey's murder. This was about a week later. When as I'm watching the news, I'm struggling to understand what happened, and I'm trying to figure out, I'm trying to do all of my conspiracy theories and trying to rationalize and trying to understand why did they take Nipsey? Why is Nipsey gone? I was trying to do that. And when I saw, so I was quite keen on these details as I was watching all these videos, YouTube videos and whatnot online at the time, 5 years ago. That video of Nipsey being carried out on the gurney caught my attention because he had one sock on his left foot. And I was like, as I'm watching the video, I look down at my right foot and I'm like, I have one sock on my right foot, left and right. You put those together, that's a match. That's a combo right there, left and right. So that had me right there stuck. I was like, whoa, what's happening here? How come that detail was even there? But again, Sam was sleeping on the floor. I was sleeping on the floor. Nipsey lay dying on the floor. Nipsey's body was being carried out with one sock on his left foot, and there I was with one sock on my right foot. These details really captured my attention. When Blacc Sam mentioned that detail about the floor, I immediately thought of the connections. I was on the floor, and then I said, wait a minute, but then something else was connected. Left foot, right foot. Like, man, this is wild. .109. Let's go back to the company man, Justin Hunt, Glasses Malone, and Daylight. They all said that Nipsey carried himself with Jesus energy. The day that we lost Nipsey, I was in the desert, and I saw those numbers on the back of the car after learning of Nipsey's murder. And immediately I knew in my mind, I said, there's a connection between 109 and there's a connection to Nipsey. I didn't know what that connection was because all I thought of when I saw 109 was my birthday. But then it was soon after that I learned that 109 is a very popular, well-known biblical verse. And I came to learn what 109 means, or 10:9, Romans 10:9. And when I found that there's a biblical verse that speaks to Jesus or speaks to Jesus's presence, I was like, that's another connection right there. 109, Nipsey, and Jesus? So it was clear to me Just as it was clear to Justin, Glasses, Malone, and Daylight, it was clear to me that Nipsey Nipsey was Jesus. Not the Jesus that we learned about in the Bible, but a Jesus energy. But then I did some even more research and I looked at it and I was like, wait, wasn't Nipsey from Eritrea? Doesn't Eritrea have the oldest Bible in the world? Aren't the Sabaeans mentioned in the Bible? Aren't the people of Saba the people of Yemen and Somalia? And didn't the Queen of Sheba rule over Ethiopia, Eritrea, Yemen, and Saudi Arabia as, you know, the queen of the Aksumite Empire? And if Nipsey is Eritrean, doesn't his lineage trace back to Aksum? We're talking all biblical references here in this man. I'm talking these biblical references. So, but I never would have even known about Aksum, about the Queen of Sheba, had I not traveled to Ethiopia. Leave it to, you know, public schools and even private schools in America, and they're not going to teach you this. But you know what? You know who does know about it? Ivy Leaguers, Harvard, Yale, Cornell, Princeton. These universities, they know about Aksum. They know the history. It's the laymen, it's the people. It's the people. But you know what? It isn't so much that, having book smarts is going to elevate you and make you, better or stronger. Because when you look at the funeral for Nipsey Hussle, you see how many people whose lives Nipsey touched? So even if you don't learn about God, if you don't learn about Jesus, if you don't learn the history, you are still going to experience God's presence in your life. And when you experience God, that's when the revolution takes place. That revolution that isn't televised, it's when that takes place. Like Gil Scott-Heron when he mentioned it. So all of these people in Los Angeles who gathered around to celebrate the life of Nipsey Hussle, Ermias Askedam, they were enveloped by God's presence through Nipsey. And that's what we mean by his Jesus energy and his messianic energy. Nipsey was special. Even the numbers, talk about how special he was. See, the number 108 is a highly sacred number in Hindu. That's something else they're not going to teach you in school. It's not only, it's a highly sacred number. And if you look at Nipsey's life was in alignment with 108. He had to ride the 108 bus down Slauson to get to the Blue Line train to take him to Watts. And then the Watts Towers, where he was studying, the Watts Towers is only 1 block away from 108th Street. It's right there. There's so many little details that are just amazing. And everything is right there in plain sight. If you know.
It's all in plain sight. You hide a motherfucker. If you want to hide something from a nigga, put it in plain sight.
If you know what to look for, if you know the signs. For me, the sign was 10-9. It was calling my attention for more than 12 years. It has called my attention for more than 12 years. But up until that point, it had been 12 years where I kept seeing 10-9, 10-9. And I didn't understand why until we lost Nipsey that day. And on that day, I saw 10-9. And I said, there's some connection between the two. And then the following week, 7 days, that biblical number, 7 days after losing Nipsey, I looked into the sky and I saw a cross. Man, how did that happen? A cross in the sky. An airplane is flying overhead right now. I'm going to switch to the map and get more in depth about this discussion about where I was in the world and how there were no airplanes that were flying overhead. We're gonna have to get into that discussion next. This has been, again, it's longer than I thought it would be. Lastly, I will say this. Peace. Peace to the God, Blacc Sam. Peace, and thank you for sharing your perspective. Thank you for sharing your insight, because we've waited. I've been waiting for 5 years to hear from you. And the one part of that whole interview that was the saddest, that was the most devastating. I mean, Blacc Sam was talking about hopelessness, and he talked about, you know, how with him, he said that the marathon had ended when he lost his brother. He says certainly the marathon continues for others, because Nipsey's memory lives within our hearts and in our minds. Another airplane. But that was really heartbreaking to hear him say that when he lost his brother, that the marathon ended for him. That's devastating news. But you know what he also said? Which brings me right back to 109, which brings me back to 10-9. And whenever I see 10-9, you know, it makes me feel good, because I know that my guardian angels are with me. I know that it is a recognition of God. It is a point at which you should say a prayer and be thankful in that moment. Be mindful in that moment that God has blessed you with. When I see 109, 10-9, that's a moment for me to say, yeah, I can dig it. Blacc Sam said the same thing. He said when he sees murals with Nipsey on them, he said it makes him feel good. Because he knows that his brother's spirit, his brother's impact on the world was felt, and that it is alive and well with the people, within the community. I'm glad that Blacc Sam said that, because that's what I'm talking about. That's the story of 10-9. They happen to go to different places. Japan. I'm walking around and I see a restaurant that's named Larry's, and I'm already feeling some kind of way. I'm like, hey, that's my name, Larry. Wow, they have a restaurant named Larry's. That's cool. So you take a picture in front of it, of course. And I keep walking, and then I see a big building, a skyscraper, and atop it has the numbers 109, and I say, whoa, wait a minute. What does that mean? What do these numbers mean in Japan, in Tokyo? But I also say, hey, those are my numbers. That's me. iSee109. Peace and blessings. And I'm out.
Cheerio. Cheerio, oh boy. Here I am in London and England having a wonderful, splendid time.
Like nearby their 40s, like this is much more practical than eating a shitload of fried fish and chips in the middle of the day and trying to do stuff.
You're at 109 right now. But you don't hear me though.